Christ's love, through word, through deed, with all who are present, and to pray for them. For many of the children and some of the adults, after assessing the situation and the need, Susan would recommend a particular device or a piece of equipment that would serve as an aid to assist them so that they could overcome some of their physical limitations. That particular device or equipment then had to be purchased if it was available, which usually it wasn't, or it had to be custom built for that particular person. So as you can see from the pictures, the children with cerebral palsy needed either a walker, a chair for them to be able to sit upright, or a standing box to help them strengthen and train their legs to stand upright. Many of them were just laying on the floor most of the time when they first went in to visit, or had to be carried or held the entire time. We want to share with you about one particular lady, adult lady, who we visited out in the village. Her name is Mama Ineta. She lives in the village of Umlilayoyo, where our church plant is out there. She was using a long cane for walking, which in turn greatly limited her ability to do her daily responsibilities around the home, two of which are going after water and firewood for her family. Susan recommended that she have some type of cart wheel that she could push, which would enable her to transport buckets of water and firewood. So we had that cart custom made for her, and Terry and the church leader probably took it to deliver it to her. We could tell almost immediately, and you can see her face here on this picture, that she was disappointed with that kind of contraption. So Terry said, we're going to leave it with you, and then we'll come back and you tell us if you're able to use it. They returned in a week, and she told them that it was too heavy for her to push, and it was of no use to her. She has a crooked spine and a leg that does not work well. She has to almost lift it herself when she walks with this help of this cane. So after listening to her idea of what she wanted, and then consulting with Susan, the occupational therapist, who had left money for us to do this with, we talked with her again and decided that a hand-driven tricycle would best meet her need. It's all dirt out there, there's some incline, and so moving about is just very difficult in the village. The Lord led us to a man named Puce, who himself is unable to walk on his legs. He is what we call a foodie, or a skilled laborer, and he knew exactly how to make this hand-driven tricycle. So when we returned the second time to Mama Ineta's house with the tricycle, you could see that her eyes brightened up, and she was happy to have that tricycle. So when she sat on it, began to try it out, a whole complete smile looked across her face. We knew that this time it was a good fit for her. That's not all of Mama Ineta's story.
About 4 months later, we went to Umlilayoyo Baptist Church for worship. And we were waiting for the people to gather there. That's kind of how we do church there in Tanzania. You can say we're going to meet or start at a certain time, but until everyone gets there, we're not starting. So we were just sitting, waiting, and we were looking out the door, and all of a sudden we saw Mama Ineta ride by on her little tricycle. About a minute later, she stepped into the church building using her walking cane. We learned later that Paulo and some of the church members had continued to visit Mama Ineta after delivering that tricycle to her. And then she began to attend the church, and then one day, she made a profession of faith and asked Jesus to be the Lord and Savior of her life. And she was eventually baptized. So now, Mama Ineta is a very faithful member of the church there. And here she is, riding her tricycle, or driving. It gave her a lot of mobility, and she was very happy about it. Again, in Romans chapter 10, verses 14 through 15, we read these words. How will they call on him in whom they have not believed? How will they believe in him whom they have not heard? And how will they hear without a preacher? How will they preach unless they are sent? just as it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news of good things. Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations. That's what Jesus commands all of us to do. But making disciples involves a lot more than just merely sharing the gospel with them so that they can then make a profession of faith. Jesus also commands us to baptize those who become the new believers, the new disciples. In our area, there are conflicting ideas and teachings about baptism and its purpose. For example, some teach that infants should be baptized, and some teach that you should be baptized by or into the Holy Spirit. And then some baptized simply by sprinkling water on the head, top of the head, and then others baptized by completely immersing below the water. Many believe that baptism is necessary for their salvation, and others do not. But we baptize how the Bible teaches us to baptize. And we baptize only those people who have made a genuine profession and Jesus is their Lord and Savior. For some people, though, to take the step of obedience to be baptized is very difficult. It's one thing to confess with your mouth that you have a new belief now and you are following Jesus. But it's another thing to put that belief into action through baptism. Why? Because the action shows a serious commitment to follow through with the confession that you made by your mouth. I always tell the Tanzanians, it's really easy to say something from your mouth. It's a whole lot different to be exactly right day-to-day in your life. Some people are very slow or reluctant to be baptized because they know that once they publicly show everyone else in their community, in their family, in their community that they're following Jesus seriously, they know that they can be ostracized by their family or even the community as a whole. In the African culture, being ostracized is a very serious matter. We always teach the new believer what the Bible teaches about baptism. And then we encourage them to follow through. And even though there could be some consequences from their family or the community, it's still a step of obedience. And until they take that step of obedience to be baptized, they're not going to be able to follow Jesus as He wants them to. But we thank the Lord for every one of them that you've seen in some of these pictures that they have taken that step.
Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. That's what Jesus commanded us to do. But making disciples involves a lot more than just merely sharing the good news so that they can believe and accept and then baptizing them. Jesus also commands us to teach them to obey all that He commands us to do. Usually the work of proclaiming the gospel to people, then baptizing those who believe is relatively easy and can be done in a relatively short period of time. But teaching them to obey the things that Jesus taught can be a little bit more difficult and require a lot more time. Why? Well, because first, we ourselves, Terry and I, too, have to be obeying those very same commandments that we're going to teach the new believer. Otherwise, we're going to be a hypocrite and not be worthy of being heard. Secondly, we have to understand how to teach in an accurate way the truths of God's Word in the language and in the format that they understand. So thirdly, we have to be patient and remember that we all still commit sin, that the temptations to commit sin are around us all day and night, and that there's an enemy whose goal is to do all he can to keep us from being obedient to Jesus' commands. So it requires patience, humbleness, and perseverance. When we disciple new believers, we do it in a variety of ways. We might meet with a person one-on-one, or we may meet with several at a time. We might meet with them in the morning or in the late afternoon. Sometimes we might meet with them at our home over a cup of tea, or other times we meet in their home having a meal with them. We teach in the language of Swahili, or we teach in the language of Swahili. We generally read straight from the Bible, which they usually prefer, even though for many, their reading comprehension is very low. But we also work at memorizing the scripture, and we use a format whereby scripture is summarized in order to emphasize an event or particular command we want them to obey. Some of the discipleship meetings are a short drive across town. Others require a long drive out to the village.
Regardless of where we go, how we go, how we do it, our goal is to teach them to obey all that Jesus commanded each and every one of us to do. And we emphasize and we encourage and we insist that they also have that same responsibility to go and make a disciple. And then to teach that new believer everything that they have learned, just like Jesus said. Teaching another person is the part that really proves to be very difficult for them. Now, I know there's a lot of reasons. I can understand sometimes they don't think they're educated enough. They don't think they understand well enough. But in the end, it's usually just a matter of not being obedient, not being ready to go and trust in the Lord to enable them to do what Jesus is commanding them to do. Jesus said that He would be with us to the very end. And we always have to remember that promise. Each and every one of us, even me, in trial. A lot of times we have to remember that Jesus is with us. So wherever we go, He's going to be right there and He's going to enable us. In John chapter 8, Jesus was talking to some Jews who had believed. It says, so Jesus was saying to those Jews who had believed Him, if you continue in my word, then you are truly disciples of mine, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. One challenge that we encountered this past term was to refute false teachings and practices that were sweeping through a lot of the churches in our area, but actually all through the sub-Saharan African continent. The teachings and practices come from what is called Neo-Pentecostalism. This form of belief is especially appealing to African culture because it allows for syncretism. And if you're not familiar with what syncretism means, that means where you can take your beliefs that you have in the Christian faith and mix it in with some of your past beliefs and practices. And so for the African is to take some of their ancestral worship or their witchcraft and mix it in with some of the things they're learning in Christianity. And they like to do that. But in short, Neo-Pentecostal beliefs and practices were man-centered and not God-centered. They depend upon experiences and one's own interpretation of those experiences. And then they say that that has more authority than God's word. They depend upon emotions, dreams, visions, and prophetic utterances as having a lot of authority, even more than the Bible. In the church, there is one person who has controlling power over all spiritual matters. So if a church is either established as a Neo-Pentecostal or it's taken over, it used to be one denomination, now it's become a Neo-Pentecostal type church, then there will be one man in that church who also all of a sudden has all authority. And whatever he supposedly receives through a dream or vision, then that becomes the practice that they have to follow until something else new comes up. A lot of times they'll get into a church through the music or through the prayer. Our Baptist churches there in that area were starting to be influenced by prayer. And this is what was happening. During the worship service, there would be a time for prayer, but what that would do is everyone stands up at one time and begins to pray out loud. And you can pray for whatever you want to. And because everyone's doing it out loud, then there's all of a sudden this competition that happens and the volume increases. And if you really listen to what a lot of the people are praying, it's not biblical prayer. And so in the end, it just becomes this noisy confusion. It's very disruptive and not worshipful at all. anyone who wants to refute or oppose that kind of practice, or even some of their other beliefs, is labeled as a non-spiritual person, because they're saying, well, you don't have connection with God. So in an effort to counter this particular practice that began to take hold in the Baptist church there in town, the Lord led me to sit down with a few of the members, the ones who were really wanting to learn, and we began to see what the Bible teaches about prayer. So we started with what Jesus himself taught about prayer. How did Jesus himself pray? And then we went all the way back to the Old Testament and looked at the people of God and how they prayed. We just finished that lesson, that series right before we left. And I was thankful that the people were understanding. But we're just praying that they will continue to understand and be willing to remain steadfast in God's word and not allow what other people are saying or leading them to do to be how they will worship God. Even one of our missionaries who actually passed away a couple of years ago, he wrote a book about the real Pentecostal. It's called Pentecostalization of Baptist Churches in Africa. So it's a very interesting book, but it's a very serious problem.
We, meaning Terry and I, are not doing this work ourselves. We thank the Lord for raising up Tanzanian men and women who He is preparing to be leaders. We're very thankful for Pastor Ezekiel, who you see here, his wife Stella, that was in the picture before, who came to Songea several years ago to pastor Galileo Baptist Church there in Tina. Terry took Pastor Ezekiel on a 3-day retreat in July of this year to Lake Malawi so they could have time for solitude, prayer, Bible study, and rest. He had never seen one. He had really never been on a retreat. Had y'all been on a retreat before? Doesn't it do your heart well and good to be alone with the Lord or with a group of others who also need that time to just get away from everyday life? He needed that too. Terry took him there, and they were able to spend those few days in some devoted time to prayer alone, and then together. They were together for their meals, and then sometimes in the afternoon. It was a great encouragement to the pastor. It was a time for him to share some personal things that were on his heart, things that he needed to share with Terry.
But we also thank the Lord that He's also preparing and raising up 2 other couples in our 2 churches there for joining us in the Word. For the past 3 years, Paulo, this is Paulo here, and his wife, Mama Ima, together with Isaka, this is Paulo also, and this is Isaka. And Isaka's wife is named Sarah. They have been studying in the seminary branch program that's in the southern part of Tanzania. Each year, they travel to school 4 different times throughout the year. The men would stay for about 2 weeks, and then the women would also have 1 week for themselves, or by themselves. And they would be involved in a lot of intensive Bible study and leadership training. They did this for 3 years. And just this past November, in 2019, they graduated from their 3-year seminary branch studies. We thank the Lord for helping them to persevere, because it was a big challenge for them to do this. These are subsistence farmers, and for them to take away time from their farming practices and to be able to go spend 2 or 3 weeks away from home is challenging to them sometimes. Paulo, he's the one who leads the church in the village of Nilayoyo, and then Saka has been helping Pastor Ezekiel in the county church. But we are praying and asking the Lord to help these 2 men and their wives to eventually become church planters, so that as a team we can all work together and we can move out beyond where we have been.
If you were in Sunday school this morning, you heard me talk about Dinah's, about Loveness. This is Loveness here teaching Sunday school. And this was just before we left at the end of September. And this is in the room right directly behind the church worship area. It's where the pastor lives. It's one of their living room areas. And these are the kids. I wanted you to see this little video of our children who Dinah's and Loveness taught These motions are
We're singing about asking Jesus into your heart and following. So, if there's true disciples and there are faithful leaders, then we should have a church. Is that not right? At least that's the way it should happen. And it does happen that way. But there are many challenges and much opposition from the enemy with Satan. We've been in Sogea for 11 years now. Baptist church in that town was there when we got there. And then the Lord led us and some Tanzanians and some volunteers to establish the churches out in Ulayola about 1 year later. So that leaves about 10 years now since we moved there and one church was started. And that's it. There's been many, many villages where we have gone, we have evangelized, we've had people make professions of faith, they were baptized, and we even went through several months of discipleship. And then one day they decided they don't want to do it. And it just disperses. The enemy has all kinds of ways to keep a person from doing what God wants them to do, or her. We're going to not give up. And so if the Lord's willing, we will go back again. And we will continue. And as we've mentioned, we've shown there's other people now who are trained, and we can hopefully work together. And that's what we're asking the Lord to do. When the Apostle Paul wrote to Timothy the first time, he reminded Timothy to pray for everyone. He read these verses in Sunday school as well. In 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 3 and 4, he said, "This is good and acceptable in the sight of God our Savior, who desires all men to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth." And we believe that this desire that the Lord God has is still right there. And He desires that the Ngoni people, the Ndendule people, the Yao people, the Matengo people, the Kinga people, the Nyasa people, and all the other peoples who live in this little corner of Tanzania and all over Tanzania hear about Jesus being the Lord and Savior, and that they will also make Him and follow Him as they will. He even says in Revelation, we see that people from every tongue, people, and tribe will be in heaven. So we believe that those people will be. So again, Jesus came up to His disciples saying, "All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go therefore, make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you, and lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age." We're going and making disciples. Will you also go and make disciples wherever the Lord leads you to?
In the beginning, when we began to talk, we express our thanks to you for all that you do to support us, and we want to say thank you again. Thank you for letting us come today too and tell you more about the work in Tanzania. We also want to encourage you to continue and to never grow weary of doing these things here and doing for those who you support. We are all to pray for one another. We pray for our missionary colleagues on the field. I'm responsible for putting together a monthly prayer calendar for all of our missionaries in our 7-country cluster called the Upper Nile Cluster. But we also have a personal newsletter that we send out so that people can pray for us and for the people of Tanzania. And we'd love to have you receive that so that you can join us in prayer and be able to know what's going on. And so if you're interested, then we want you to leave your name, your email address, or if you don't have email and you have a mailing address, we will send you a newsletter that way too. We have a stateside prayer advocate in Nacogdoches, Texas, who does this for us, and we're very thankful for her. We have a sign-up sheet on the corner of the table down here with our picture and pin on it so that you can give us that information. We usually send them out once every quarter, so you don't get tons of emails. If there's an emergency prayer need, I'll send out a note. And we do want to tell you about a prayer need that we already told him about. We have 7 missionary units in the country of Tanzania right now. We are one of those 7. And 2 of our units have been denied their work permits to work and be missionaries in Tanzania. They are in the appeal process right now through the government. And we want you to pray for them. They are dear friends of ours. And their families are there. And they feel called to Tanzania just like we do. Our work permit expires April the 3rd of this year. And we go back to the field and arrive April the 1st of this year. And so the process to renew our work permit begins right now in January. And I heard about the paperwork that was started and all that, but we're relying upon those. Our logistics coordinator who's here in Texas with us now, but also Tanzania and walking these papers through for us to start the process of our work permit. We feel like God has called us to remain in Tanzania, but we need your prayers. All of our missionaries need your prayers, especially in these next several months. And we will keep you informed. And then, I also want to show you, you see the bucket down here? And I know you know your missionary, Maggie Dixon, who you have a prayer card for. Okay. Our friends that just moved to where Maggie lives are the ones that got their work permit tonight. Okay? And they use these buckets to get into homes to do evangelism. They're Baptist Global Response buckets, or they're hospice buckets. And they can know all about these and how to get the information about filling these buckets to send to the countries where they're usable. And these are some of the pictures that my friend Laura sent me, who is with Maggie living her in Tanzania along the coast. That's Laura Liz. And they have stories of how the gospel has been proclaimed and how people have come to know the Lord through care, through giving of these, training the people who give them. They're Tanzanians. You see this man here who's teaching them how to use everything in this bucket. They don't just go and use the bucket, give the bucket and the contents and leave. They pray with them, they share the gospel with them, and they do repeat visits to tell them about the good news of Jesus and the reconciliation story. So thank you for giving to keep Maggie there and to keep us there. So thank you.
And we want you to know that we're not asking you to keep giving and we're not doing it. We're doing it too. We give to the Lady of Christmas offering every year as well. So we are in there with you. So to go and make disciples is something that Jesus commanded us all to do. So let's ask the Lord to help us to be faithful to do that, whether we're living here in South Carolina or in Tanzania. you again for allowing us here today. We'd just like to close in prayer. Okay.
Thank y'all for listening, and they have a display table down here that you can come by after church and you can look at that, ask them questions. They might be able to answer all of them. And like I said, if not, I'll answer them for them. I'll fill that in. And you've heard their ministry. What does it mean to be denied a work permit? Well, you have to get out of the country. You can't stay there anymore. Basically, you're asking for permission, and if they deny it, you have to leave. So pray that work permits will be granted. Basically, from what they were saying, it has to be perseverance. You have to keep on and on and on until they eventually grant that permit. So let's pray for Terry and Twyla. This will be dismissed. If you'd like to, you talked last week, if you'd like to give them something to help them with their ministry, we'll have a couple of ushers, one at each door with offering plate if you'd like to give. If you haven't given, maybe some of you already gave that way. And so just if I can have an usher at each door after we dismiss. So let's go, Lord, in prayer. Lord, we thank you so much for Terry and Twyla and for the ministry that you have given to them, and they're using them, and along with their national partners. And I ask that we would continue to pray for them, that you would continue to use them, and that they would have no problem getting those work permits as well as the others, and you would grant that permission. Thank you for letting them share with us. Help us to be faithful here to do what we need to do to make disciples and to give the gospel to people. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. And as you go, they also have prayer cards at each door. So we're dismissed. Y'all can go. And come down here and talk with them.